Good evening, everyone. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we have roll call, please?
Supervisor McGlasson?
Here.
Councilwoman Campbell?
Present.
Councilman Toupori is not present. Councilman Ruthven?
Here.
Councilman Boyd?
Here.
Present, all present.
Thank you. I make a motion to open the public hearing for the excavation law.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Do you want to talk about this?
No, everybody's familiar with this. I think we need to go right into public comment and see if we can answer anybody's questions on this. So if you'd like to come up and speak about it, we asked Bruce Barber to come in today to help us answer some of the questions for you guys. So you're more than welcome to. Eileen, you want to step up?
Hello.
Hi, my name is Eileen Civitello, and thanks for the public hearing today. This has been a while coming, and thank you. We appreciate the attempt here, and it's great to be moving along to this. I'm just curious about one thing. I mean, so we all know of areas in the county that have been become sites of rock excavation. You hear from the neighboring residents about what it's doing to their quality of life and the quality of the landscape. You see it in the roads in the vicinity of these places, the traffic and the wear and tear, just in general, the air quality, et cetera, et cetera. So with that background, I believe that's where we were coming from to protect the town of Kent from that type of excavation, AKA mining, okay? Which I think simply as the removal from the earth of natural materials for the purpose of profit, separate and apart from legitimate development for development's sake. And that's been our fear, that's been our concern, and that's been what we haven't wanted to happen here. So with that preamble, I would just like to ask, I've read through this a number of times, and it's funny that some of the times I've read it, I'm sure it's about where I've been coming from, but some of the times I've read it, I haven't understood a word. And I guess law reads like that, or by intent. Other times I seem to get what we're saying, but just very simply, I'm surprised that even in purpose and intent, it never says to prevent rock from being mined for profit, The code is called Town of Kent Excavation and Mining, Chapter 63. I see the word mining in that title, but I don't see it much through the code, so to speak, other than under mining defined, and that, I gotta say, that concerns me, because if you don't call it, are we gonna be covering it, And I would ask a question of you guys. Do you see that the intent of preventing rock to be mined for profit, do you see it in this code? And I don't see it? Ann, do I call on you?
Yeah, but give me 1 second. One of our changes already that is going to happen is we will not have mining in the title of it.
You're going to drop the word mining?
Correct. Because mining is not allowed commercial mining is not allowed in the town of Kent.
I was waiting for you to say that. So I was waiting for you to say that because if mining is not allowed, and I know this rabbit hole because we've been down it a number of years now, you're not allowed to do that, so why are we writing a code to say how to do it, right? Essentially. But if mining is not allowed, then why under the definition of mining in the code, does it say activities associated with the processing of such materials being, I'm sorry, let me go back. Mining shall not include, the extraction, let's go back to the definition of mining, okay? The extraction of soils, rock, overburden, and minerals from the earth, and the removal of such materials from the site through sale or exchange, or for commercial, industrial, or municipal use, is the definition of mining. Mining shall not include the creation of water bodies or excavation to native agriculture. Then we go on to say, activities associated with the processing of such materials, if permitted, must comply with the conditions of any permit granted in accordance with the... So we're not going to write a code that calls mining mining, and we're not going to mention the word mining in the code, but we say activities associated with the processing of such materials, if permitted. So do I see in here somewhere that under certain circumstances, we're going to permit mining? Go ahead.
So
I feel funny calling on you, I mean, just,
I would draw your attention to page 3 of 13, near the top, C1. Mining as defined under this code is prohibited in the town of Kent.
and that's what, I refer to that when I refer back to the thing I just read you. So why does it say if permitted?
It says it's prohibited.
But it does say,
So that's what I mean by
Permitted.
rabbit hole.
I think that's a
Why are
DEC
we-
definition, isn't it?
Is there a loophole in there of some kind, you know, that if permitted, but we don't permit, but if we do permit, you know? And it kind of feels in, overall, I'm curious as to why the word rock isn't in here. I mean, I have, these are like kind of, these are my broad stroke questions. Like, with what I said when I first got up, you know, the concern being that rock is, and I know we've talked about this for so long now, rock is $1 billion industry in the state of New York because we are so plentiful with the natural resource. It's valuable to our society, to our roads, to our infrastructure, building. It's a precious commodity. But if that's what the town of Kent, if that's the development that the town of Kent has in its history, I think the residents should have a say in that, you know, because it has an effect. Okay, so with that in mind, why don't we say the word rock in this? Or are we really just doing an excavation code? And maybe we need to go back and revisit rock removal code. I don't think, I personally do not think that putting rock and not saying the word rock and hoping it's covered under an excavation code that refers to materials. It just, to me, I don't feel that that's really specific enough, and maybe you want to answer that.
should we have first one?
Well, you're taking notes here, so you can answer all the questions at one time. Thank you, Bruce.
Maybe some of the questions.
Okay, I'm just going to try to just hit just my top things here. And just one other thing. You know, we talk about applicability, and you know, the DEC limits the 750, where is that, 750 cubic yards or 1,000 tons. Okay. The approval specifically, you know, I'm sorry, I'm not seeing my last question, but I think that kind of, oh, you know, there's, and I know that this is, a lot of this is our existing excavation code. Again, it's, you know, right, the town has a current excavation code, and we kind of brought that in and are folding it into, if you will, to call it, and now we've lost the word mining. So we're really just here talking about a revise of our excavation code. Is that what I'm understanding tonight?
Yeah, it's a revision of the chapter 60, current chapter 63 that we have.
Okay, so then what about the fact that where it says mining if permitted? I mean, so we don't have a code then about mining, yet we do refer to mining if permitted. It also refers through the code of, you know, under the discretion of the town board and under the, you know, and I worry about those things. I worry about code giving discretion to any town board, not you guys, but the town boards to come. You know, I feel like code needs to withstand what's right, not who's right, you know? And you know, in hopes that we will always have such an upstanding town board and you know, with no other motivation, I would say that that's a great way to handle it. But knowing that human nature is such that, I mean, I actually am so cynical that I could envision people, you know, coming here to be put in a position to have it be their discretion as to what excavation is being done, rock removal is being done. I'm concerned about that. So I think that's it from me for the moment. Thanks.
Bruce, you want to take these first and then?
Maybe you could give everybody a chance
Okay.
to speak, Chris, and someone might be too.
I just wonder if you're going to answer some of the questions through your answers, so we don't.
All right, want to try that?
Yes, please.
Sure. Good evening, members of the town board and public. I'm Bruce Barber, I'm the town's environmental consultant. First, I just want to underscore the fact that this particular draft ordinance has been a work in progress for, I think, Chris, close to about a year now. And I lost count, but I think this is about our 7th or 8th version, or iteration, as it's called. And there's been an awful lot of participation by a lot of people in a lot of respects on this code. However, I realize many of you are seeing this for the very first time. And so it's wonderful that you're coming out and asking these questions and looking at it. Eileen, those are very thoughtful questions. Basically, I think where we are with this is that, number one, this code prohibits mining. But mining in this code is defined not by so much profit and loss of the operation, but by thresholds of activity, meaning how much digging or excavation is going on, and then how much of that is actually leaving the site. Because what's been happening in the town of Kent, and what the town board is trying to capture here, is the fact that people have an intent and have come in to just mine a site and then walk away. The rocks are going out on Route 52, and they're going out over a period of many, many months, if not years. And so the town board thoughtfully said, how can we balance good development with not having that continue to happen? And so basically the threshold was established of allowing a certain amount of material to leave the site, which is basically the threshold of a DEC mining permit, and then also to allow a certain threshold to occur on the site without going to the town board for a special use permit, because it's a two-tiered process. That being said, the other piece of it is that if they're using the material on site and doing what's called a balanced activity, where they're taking some rock and soil from here, moving it over here to create good development, then there should be an opportunity for them to process the material that they're taking out on the site. But that is something that is a threshold as well. A lot of processing, too much processing, maybe it's not going to be good. And so there's this kind of threshold of blending together a certain level of activity, not having it be so onerous that people who are just trying to build a house or a small commercial development or something like that are going to get involved in this type of permit threshold. They will be involved with the planning board, but not this level with the town board. So mining is prohibited. Rock is absolutely mentioned throughout the code and is in the definition of excavation in terms of removal. When you're removing rock, that is in part the definition of excavation. So I think really, if I'm hearing you correctly, it might be to take a look at the clarity of the definitions, the clarity of the thresholds, and see if we can make sure that those are really clear to anybody who's reading them for the first or second time. So I think that's where we are. But as far as your questions go, with rock and with mining being prohibited, and the only thing I can tell you is for profit, it really wasn't the goal to to limit profit, and we're really not measuring profit. Sometimes people may take a bunch of rock off and lose their shirts, right? And sometimes they'll make a lot of money. I don't know how that works for them, but it does. So the idea is that we want to create a threshold of activity. How much rock, how many materials, cubic yards, tons that would be leaving the site, and that's what the board came up with. Does that answer your questions?
I think so, except for the part where it says if permitted.
I'm sorry?
Except for the part that says mining if permitted.
Where do you see that? Mine is permitted.
Maybe I'm reading it wrong.
Ann, do you see anything?
It says in the definition of mining, activities associated with the processing of such materials if permitted.
Page
Right.
So it's not referring to mining being permitted, it's referring to the
processing.
processing activities.
So processing,
So taking material from the site and using that to build a road on the site, for example.
well, or in addition, let's say people are going to be taking out part of a rock area, and they're going to use that to put underneath their foundation or their slab, right? But they have to grind it up, right? So that's processing, and that'll be at the discretion of the approval authority in terms of whether they're going to approve that or not. Okay?
It's just that it came under the definition of mining, activities associated with the processing of such materials if permitted. That's where it's under the definition of mining. But I hear you. So you're saying there's a limit then to the excavation beyond the 750 and the...
Yeah, so, I mean, if you look at the bottom of page 2, there's a definition of processing there. Okay, so that's what processing is as compared to mining. Okay, they're really basically two different things.
Right.
As far as threshold goes, basically, if you look at page 3 and you're looking at C4, actually C2, I should say. So anytime you are over 1,000 tons or 750 cubic yards within any 12 consecutive month period, the town board defines that as mining, and that's not going to be okay. However, if you look down further at C4, these are the thresholds when you need this type of permit, this special use permit, this excavation permit, and it has to do with an area size of 8,000 square feet, but then in getting more feedback from people, they also said, what about a small piece of property? They're going to put a big hole in the ground. How's that going to work? So the definition was, or that threshold was tightened up to make the threshold also a 10,000 square foot box. And this is another section of our code in what's called environmentally sensitive lands. It's borrowed right from there. 10,000 square foot box, and basically within any 10,000 square foot box, you cannot change the grade more than 4 feet from the existing surface, or excavate any more than 1,500 cubic yards. So it's not so onerous, but it does kind of take care of the smaller property, but larger, we'll call holes in the ground, if you will, in that process.
But that feels like that's going to cover people coming in for rock, just for rock. Like, I
Mhm.
mean, maybe it does.
So,
Explain it that way.
so excavation, I'll just find that for you. Excavation's disturbance or removal of material including soil, rock, and or materials from land for the purpose of etc. So rocks are in there. Sure. Anything else? Okay. I'll get out of the way.
Thank you, Bruce. Kathy?
I wanted just to ask you, Bruce, so what he's saying on the mining as defined under this code is prohibited in the town of Kent. So number 2, you're just telling us what that is? Or are you saying, because this is the mining, this is what the DEC, if you were going to do this, you'd go get a permit.
Right, so anything over those thresholds would require the DC mining.
I thought those were the thresholds.
They are, right at those thresholds, that's what we're looking at for DEC. So anything above that, you'd be looking for DEC.
Okay, so how do you prevent that? Again, from the bus garage, they went to the DEC.
To
and
get a
the
money.
town didn't know about it. So how do we know that someone's not going to go, because they're going to say to themselves, I am going to remove this much, 750 cubic yards, so I'll just go get a DEC permit.
Bruce?
Sure. The bus garage? Yeah. Route 52, okay. So what happened in that circumstance is that the applicant appeared before the planning board, and they developed a site plan, and they had indicated they were going to improve the site with certain buildings, salt storage shed, and then it evolved, and it was maybe going to be a storage facility, et cetera. And so they went through the site planning process, and as part of the site plan approval process, they developed a grading plan. And the grading plan showed these excavations, and they basically followed the rules that are in place in the town code to get site plan approval. And they were able to do that because the Chapter 63, our soil removal, does not have the ability to do what this code is intending to do. So it was kind of we'll call it a bit of a loophole, them being able to do that while they got a DEC permit. Basically, they got site plan approval from the planning board, and the planning board was not given and did not have the tools at that time, like this code, to change and amend the site plan accordingly. And that's what happened.
But also, the DEC or the planning board didn't seem to know that they had gotten a permit. They knew a couple of the permits, but there was the last one in August, they didn't even know about. And if you go on the DEC website, it tells you have 30 days, like, how would we know? You have 30 days to comment on it. So is there some way of making sure that if they do try to get a permit, that somehow the planning board and town board know this? Is that
So-
even possible?
Bruce, maybe I'm wrong, Bruce, you can correct me, but with these thresholds, it won't get past the planning board's approval in order to trigger them to have to go to the DEC for a permit.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Because that was a requirement over a certain amount that they get a DEC permit.
Yeah, that's right, Chris. What the idea is that somebody walks into town hall with a project, and the way this code is written, the gatekeeper, the person that they see first is the planning board. They're going to develop a materials to submit to the planning board, and at that level, the planning board is going to be able to take a look at these thresholds, how many cubic yards, how much surface area, et cetera. And if those thresholds are met or exceeded, then the review of the planning board stops. It heads to the town board for concept plan review. Once the town board has had a chance to look at it and get feedback, et cetera, then and only then, if the town board is comfortable, it goes back to the planning board for the environmental reviews, the seeker reviews, the permits, et cetera. Once that is done, and invariably a negative declaration is declared, it comes back to the town board for the special use permit conditions, which could be in addition to what the planning board rather has already imposed. So that's the process. So Chris, you're right. That's is really the meaning behind this, is to kind of get these things lined up at the beginning rather than at the end or 30 days after DEC has notified us. Yeah.
The questions I have are just little. Okay, waiver of requirements and standards on page 9 of 13. Down towards the bottom, special use permit, it may waive such a requirements or standards subject to appropriate conditions as deemed appropriate by the town board and/or planning board. Should it read town board and planning board? Because you have down below planning board and town board in performance standards. Should you keep it consistent? Because when you're doing and/or, could that get muddied a little bit? Do you see where I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm trying to,
Nine.
I want to look back. It says as set
On
forth.
paragraph 2, towards the middle.
I see that, and I'm just looking because it's referring back to set forth in section 1, so I just wanted to see what.
Well, because at the
Section
top it
one.
saes where the town board and/or
Yes.
planning board, again, just to keep it consistent.
It says set forth in section, is that 1 or an I? Aye. So it's right here.
Oh, it's J. Waiver of requirements, and then it says and/or on the top, and then down below it says and/or. Then you go into K, and it says approved by the planning board and town board. So I was just thinking, shouldn't it be more consistent as?
Chris, it's referring to the application
Yeah,
requirements.
I see. I
Let's
got
start
it.
on page 6.
Right.
So we want to take out or?
Okay, all right. And on 13 of 13, again, I know you have the code enforcement officer on paragraph 4, under N, as in Nancy. I didn't mean to do that. It says, the code enforcement officer should say building inspector / code enforcement officer, just to be clear again. 4,
And 4.
4 and 5.
And N5, correct. Thank you, Ann. Okay.
and on number 10 of 13,
Number what?
page 10 of 13.
Gotcha.
Number 13, no, number 14. The applicant shall submit weekly reports prepared by and bearing the seal of an engineer showing the status and progress of the excavation activity. Is that to the town board and planning board? Who gets the paperwork? I was just, little things. That's all.
Bruce, should that go to the building inspector / code enforcement officer?
In a lot of times that is the case, but Nancy, I just wonder, is the building inspector empowered to enforce these types of codes? I don't know that universally. It might just be that the appointed code enforcement officer is the person responsible.
Bill, you enforce the town code as well, right?
Yes. So that's
Yeah.
I like
Does it all.
I like the idea of the reports going to a full-time town employee who's gonna be there reading them instead of the town board that could be on vacation or here. No, I agree. I agree with the.
Right, so the building inspector is designated in Chapter 27 as the code enforcement officer. That's the title that's been changed, and we changed it recently in our new building codes that we just updated back in April. But throughout the whole town code, it refers to as code enforcement officer, building inspector. When we have a vacant building or a problem with a vacant building, it says the code enforcement officer has to go back to the building inspector. So they're the same thing, and I enforce the town codes as well as state codes. So they're the same thing, code enforcement and building inspector. Yeah, Bill Looney would know. I mean, he's a smart man, but he's not going to know 750 tons of rock. It's not within his training. He wouldn't know how to even look at that. To be honest with you, I wouldn't even know 750 ton of rock either. Just a lot of rock.
Thank you, Bill.
Bill, you want to go, should I? Okay, so on page 9, where Catherine's talking about J2 and K2, I think the differentiation there is that under J2, there's a bunch of requirements. There's 2 pages of requirements. And both the town board and the planning board are looking at these requirements. And sometimes not all, one size doesn't fit all. And some of those requirements may not feel to be necessary based upon the project. So each entity, the planning board and the town board, upon their review, has an opportunity to waive certain requirements. However, when you go down to performance standards, these are now approved projects. They're supposed to do something out in the field. That's a performance standard criteria. And at that time, there's been an approval generally granted, and therefore there really shouldn't be a waiver from either one, planning board or town board. And I think that's why they're lumped together. Okay. And Kathy, do you have anything else?
It was the end of yours, just keep it consistent.
Yes, I think that's what we've got there. Other than that, I think we're good.
Do you agree that on 14, should we define where those weekly reports are going to?
Yes, I think that's a really good idea, and I don't ever need to give Mr. Walters more work.
He loves it.
Thanks.
We don't talk like that.
So that's on page 10, number 14.
I see, page 10.
Number 14, right?
Yes.
10, 15. Yeah, I think weekly reports Also, I think, Kathy, did you bring up who pays for it at some juncture? And I think we probably should say at the expense of the applicant. They should provide adequate escrow for those reports to be done. So maybe we would add something there that says at the expense of the applicant and submit it to the town building inspector, something simple.
I think that's a good idea.
Sure.
Hi, Julie Boyd. Great, overall, great job. I really appreciate the work and effort. I have learned something over the years, though. I write really well. I prove my own writing poorly, so I'm going to do a little grammar correction on a couple items. Don't take it personally. And so I'm going to start with one. Under the definitions of mining, I think it should be from the earth, not form the earth. Sorry.
That's a typo.
So I just wanted to point out, I really like the wording in section C5E. I'm not going to go back and tell you, but just so you know. But when you get to section F1B on page 5, I look at words that can be interpreted in different ways. Detrimental. Maybe we should, because my version of detrimental and your version of detrimental might be a little different. I don't know if in any other chapter in the code that detrimental's defined. On that, it's page 5.
5FB.
F1, section 1, question B.
6 lines from the bottom.
Yep. It's just a word that struck me that when talking to different people. When you go to page 8, I1CC emphasizes, it talks about water testing both pre. We also need to, I don't know if we need to clarify, but one of the places we definitely need to test our wells downhill from the project. Those are the wells normally contaminated if something's going to happen, not necessarily the wells uphill, but I wanted to exclude those either. So I'm actually going to ask you again, I know you explained this to Kathy, but in section I2, when you talk about it, you're asking to see the DEC permit, mining permit. So I guess I'm confused. Do we come before are we the chicken or are we the egg, and which one comes first?
I don't either.
But, you're asking to see
Can you
it.
tell us where you're looking at again, please?
On this one, I am looking at
TJ,
I2.
I2?
I2. Because it asks us, you're, as a town board, it starts with a full, it's on page 8,
Yep.
a full environmental assessment form. Well, as you go down there, you're asking to see Article 23, Title 27, the DEC confirmation law. That's a mining permit. So my understanding is now they've already gotten the mining permit before it comes before you.
Bruce?
Go ahead.
Getting my exercise. No. I was the least favorite grammatical person in my high school class, Julie, so I appreciate it. DEC, basically applicants can do one of two things. When an applicant comes before the planning board, they, depending upon the size of the project, will be a certain threshold under the seeker review process. And if it's an unlisted action, as known under seeker, then the applicant can do what's called an uncoordinated review, and they can actually apply on their own without any knowledge or forethought from the town for a DEC mining permit. With a type 1 action, which is generally considered a larger scale action, a lead agency would be established, which in most cases is the planning board, and they would conduct what's called a coordinated review, in which case this would be referred to DEC, but nothing prevents an applicant from applying in advance of that. So oftentimes what happens is that applicants will want to get that in, let's say, their back pocket in terms of DEC approval before they head to the town, and that's what's happened in the past.
So So with this new code, though, we still have the check on it, correct?
Right, because basically what we didn't have before was a prohibition of this mining, or if you're going to be working the site, the tools that the planning board needs to ensure that there's development going on. Because one thing that's important to consider, and the town board was adamant in their discussion on this, is that they don't want to see a large site completely just stripped and denuded and basically, you know, rocks coming out of it, et cetera. People come and they are saying, we're going to build a commercial development here and have a good development on paper, but then they really have no intention of doing it. They just want to in the past mine. So the code is set up to have the town board and the planning board have authority to create thresholds. You can do a certain section of it, but then we want to see a building. And once the building's up and you have a CO, then you can do another section, et cetera. So it's a much more intelligent approach to controlling the development.
So, just, you didn't really answer my question. Why would they ever have to go get a mining permit?
Because under certain thresholds, just like we have wetlands that are state wetlands and town wetlands, if you are at certain thresholds and you're in state wetlands, you have to get both permits. You got to get a town permit and a wetland permit from the state. It's the same thing with mining. If you reach a certain threshold, you have to get a state mining permit. What about what?
So why would you?
Because, right, so what's going to happen is that they may have a state mining permit, but they're going to run up against not being able to do it under the town code if indeed the town board passes this.
So you're
At least in that fashion.
You're just saying if they have applied without our knowing it, they need to disclose that?
Well, I'm saying that if the DEC will maybe grant the mining permit under certain conditions, and the town board may take a look at it and say, well, you know, you may want to do this project, but under this town code, if adopted, you're not going to be able to do it in that fashion. That's going to be considered mining by the town. So it creates a check and balance, if you will, with DEC.
I think what everybody in here, including myself, are very concerned about is why did they go get a mining permit? You know, what was their intention?
The bus garages were known?
No, I mean, if they are following this code and they walk into the planning board, why are they walking in with a mining permit? Why?
Again, if they are meeting, so DEC has their own rules and regulations, right? And their own thresholds of what they need to get permits for. So it would seem, Chris, that based upon this code, that they would not be eligible to get a mining code from DEC. However, I'm not the folks at DEC, and they have their own rules and regulations. So it's conceivable that they would apply for a DEC permit and then circle back to this town and say, we got the DEC permit, and the town may say, yeah, well, you know what, you're going to have to amend those conditions to fit this ordinance to make it work for the town. And that's another possibility, one or the other.
And one of the things on the bus garage, he marked off that it said, is mining permitted in your town? Which we didn't have a code, but it's supposed to be, if you don't have a code, it's still not allowed. He marked off it was allowed.
Where's Julie? Julie, I'm sorry. You're on again.
That's fine.
Take your stuff.
No, you're good. You left me that. Okay. On page 10. Oh, number 7, at the top of page 10. It just seems confusing. There will be no excavation, processing, or grading or removal within 50 feet of any property or street, or a greater or lesser distance if approved by the town board. So it's either 50 feet, or it could be 60 feet, or it could be 40 feet? That's right?
50 feet's the minimum.
Yeah.
If the town board says there's a very sensitive residential site next door, or there is an issue with a senior home facility or something, the town board may be empowered to add to that.
Okay. Oh, same page, number 13A. It's just remove the of before rock chipping. It's okay. I'll give you my work to proof later. You can. I guess this is really a question that I'm just not familiar with. So it talks about, in section L, about placing a bond. Do bond rates change depending on the price? I know, like, if I have to go to Westchester and get a bond for doing a geothermal system, it's based on, my permit cost is based on the cost of my job. Is that how we base it in Kent, or do we just have, you know, like it's, the maximum is a $2,000 fee, or
No,
it's all
they're based
based?
on the job.
Okay.
Be quite high, or depending on the job is quite big.
And I guess the only other definition of a word that I'm a little concerned about is on page 13, number 7 at the top of the page. It talks about restoration of land. When I was in the process of foiling documents from DEC Division 1 regarding 1250 Route 52, which we commonly refer to as the school bus garage, they said that property was restored based on DEC's version of restoration. Now, if you go to DEC websites and they show pieces of property that look like that, and then they show how they're restored, you know, it's totally different.
Doesn't look like that?
No, it doesn't, sorry. So I'd like us to define what restoration should be. If they planted trees on the front line of that property and you couldn't look at it, we'd have probably all been like, oh, it's out of sight, out of mind. And I guess, too, you know, I come from the Midwest where there was a lot of strip mining. They did restoration there, too, and the hills in certain areas run the wrong way. They don't run towards the river, they run uphill. So I just think restoration, you know, probably needs to be defined, a little bit of what we expect.
I think we all know what restoration should be, and certainly there was something that happened down on Route 52, and Bruce, you know all about it. Bruce can explain what happened, and it wasn't supposed to look like that. That wasn't the plan.
Well, but I just don't, again, it's like all of us, it's
restoration
like
plan-
looking at loopholes.
Yeah, the restoration plan now will be enforced through the planning board, and the state won't be able to let them get away with it, because they're not going to be the ones that require the restoration. The town will be at this point.
Okay,
No, we're
for future sites.
future sites. Is that correct, Bruce? At this point, we're the enforcers of that. On that one, they got away with it because they got the state to sign off on it.
I guess I was just going to ask, we were talking about, it sounds like everything is in phases. So you remove, you know, do your rock removal, your excavation, and then do they finish the phase completely before we allow them to go on to phase 2? Or they get a third of the way through 1, they can start phase 2? Again, just trying to figure out, if you don't finish 1, are you ever going to finish the other ones? If you have multiple phases in a project?
Let's let Bruce walk you through that process.
Okay, so with respect to the restoration that we call the bus garage, there was a restoration plan that developed by the planning board. And basically it was to, upon completion at grade, and if a building had not been constructed within 2 years following the approval, they were to install topsoil and put grass seed and a native mix and allow it to grow out as a native meadow. In the process of what happened is that right at that 2-year mark, or plus or minus, I'm aware the school district acquired the property. The school district has their own set of rules and regulations they follow, kind of like an island, not so much exactly like the town. They are their own.
Separate municipality of their own.
Yeah.
With their own rules and regulations.
And their own stormwater regulations, their own MS4. And so they did not take it upon to do the restoration. And at the same time, we were not empowered as a town to force that, because they're their own separate entity. My understanding is that's working its way through the legal process right now. I really can't comment exactly where we are with respect to the final outcome and the restoration. I just don't know yet, Chris, but I know it's still kind of working through the legal process of trying to see if the folks at the district are going to retain the property or sell it, and if it's sold, is somebody going to be doing the restoration? I just don't know. So I'm not privy to that. What was the second question? They have not gotten their bond back.
Phasing, at what point can they go
Phasing.
phase 1 and phase
The phasing basically has to do with the building being completed and a certificate of occupancy being granted for the building before the next phase can start.
When you asked if they got the bond back, it's not the school district that held the bond, it was the original owner.
So how did they sell it without, did they have a certificate? I know, you know what, I'm kind of,
I know what I've heard about that, but I just wanted everybody to hear that, the way that went, that apparently Kent Materials sold to the school district, and we're able to sell with a certificate of occupancy without getting their bond back, without remediating the original excavation, the original development. How did that happen? You know, and I only bring that up not to beat on a dead horse, because obviously that's what we've got down here, but if we don't remember, we will forget and perhaps let it happen again.
So
And,
there's,
you know,
we don't want to comment too much on this
Okay,
because
but-
some of it is still alive, but I do want to say that in this particular instance, the fact that the owner that bought it was the school district was really the issue that we had. Had it been private owner to private owner, things would have happened different. But we can't really, we're still involved with the original owner, so we can't comment too much on that. Okay? Is that fair enough, Nancy?
Yes.
Thank you.
I mean, he probably already said this. So we have addressed that, can they sell the material from this property if they wanted to, Bruce?
Can they sell material?
Yeah, if they want to sell the rock, you know, for the job, they're phasing, they're doing their thing. But if they want to remove that rock from the site, are we saying that they have to keep the rock on the site like they did at Home Depot? They kind of just went down the embankment with the rock. Are they going to be allowed to say, well, we don't need all this rock, so we're going to sell it? Are they going to do rock processing enough to sell it, or just rock processing for the project?
So Kathy, on page 3, C2, talks about thresholds, and it says the amount of material to remove from the subject site shall not exceed 1,000 tons or 750 cubic yards in any 12-month period. Whatever they're doing with it, whether they're selling it, whether they're using it in their own properties, whatever, is not the objective of determining in this ordinance. It's a threshold, basically, 750 cubic yards of people digging out a basement in their home, right? Typical house. It's maybe about 200 cubic yards. Is that about right, Bill? In that range? So 750 cubic yards is not a lot of stuff. We're allowing them to do a reasonable amount of removal, but not basically taking everything off the site and selling it and removing it. So there's no real price tag associated with it. It's a threshold of how much is leaving the site. A very small amount in any 12-month period.
The straight up answer is up to 750, they could sell it if they choose to.
Can do whatever they want.
Within that 1 year.
Yes.
12-month period. So they could sell it, they could use it in their own projects, whatever they want to do, but that's not a threshold we're dealing with cost.
And that would be per property? So if you had a development going in and had 10 lots to it, they could times that by 10?
No. Basically, under the secret requirements, if you have a property, and even if the lots are not contiguous, Sean, but they're all part of the same project, they're all considered as one. So even if you have a lot over here and a lot over here, and they're not even connected, but it's all part of the same project, they would all be lumped into one project at that threshold.
Excellent. Good answer. Thank you.
Do you have any comments up here? No?
I don't have any comments. Is there any more? We got a lot of people here.
No? Okay. Do you want to?
I do have one comment on the definition. It has in there, under mining, it says, does not include water body. And if I went and got a DEC permit to make a lake, technically I could come in here and say, you couldn't stop me. It's a water body. So we need to redefine what a water body is. Size of it.
Is it a water body before you make it into a lake?
Yes.
Or is it just a mine?
Yeah, well, it's a hole and you could say it'll fill itself in 10 years.
That's not the definition of a water body, though. But but it does key into a good question. What if, for some reason, Bruce, that we get down the road and want to dredge out Lake Carmel, for instance, and take out an incredible amount of silt and dirt out of there? Does that constitute mining? Now, I know we would have different rules because the government can, it's in here that we got some exception. But say it was somebody who had a big, I don't, is there any big private, let's say one of our lake communities, it's a private lake community, and they got the permits and everything to dredge that out, how would that be affected as mining? Let's get an answer.
Yeah.
So Christie, it's a good question in terms of does dredging the lakes at some juncture constitute an excavation under this law? I'm not sure, but I think we should clarify that it does
Okay,
not.
thank you.
All right.
We good?
Yeah, so.
So we would like to close the public hearing tonight, but allow it to stay open for written public comment for 10 more days. So we can continue to receive input from people watching tonight and stuff. But we would like to close the physical public hearing tonight. We are trying to stick to our timeline that we had worked out with our consultants to move through this process, but we don't want to shut it down for public comment completely. So to everybody out there in the public watching, you're more than welcome to continue to send your comments in for the next 10 days. We will try to get them addressed. And at that point, we're going to close it on
August 17th.
August 17th to written comments. We're going to give her all the comments that we want to get changed back to our consultants, hopefully come up with the last and final draft, and move this thing along. Bruce, is that correct? Am I saying that timeline right?
If I can suggest, typically the comment period is held open for 10 days after this particular event.
days.
At that time, that would be the 11th. That would give us enough time to sift through all the comments, both at this meeting and in
Before the
writing.
17th.
For the 17th, and be able to amend it accordingly. So that's would be my suggestion.
Okay.
So we have it ready for the 17th.
But Bruce, when do we plan to adopt this?
On the
If we are,
17th.
on the 17th, so
Yeah.
it has to be in its final form at least 10 days before the 17th.
Right, so let's see. It's 10 days, not 7
Yes.
days. So let's see, that would be 17, that would be 7, so we don't have as much time.
Right.
You have until Monday.
We could always, just give me 1 second, we could always have a special meeting at the end of August before Labor Day. Just to wrap this up, give everybody a lot more time to comment on it. You okay with that?
Yes.
That'll give you more time to work on it too.
Okay.
So why don't we shoot for written comments to be in by the 17th? We'll go 10 more days to the 27th. What day of the week does that fall on?
That's a Sunday.
Sunday.
So the 28th or 29th, Tuesday?
You're going to have to do that meeting.
I can do that meeting, that's fine. We're just going to close it at that point. Does that sound good?
Sure. Also, if I can just suggest to identify where the folks would send in the written comments to, would it be Lana's office or the supervisor or whomever?
We can send them into the town clerk's office.
Okay,
And she'll circulate them to
And
all
she'll
of us.
circulate them around, and we'll make sure that they get sent to you also.
great, thanks.
And the other consultants that have been working on this, and the planning board, because they've been a big partner through this whole process.
Absolutely.
Excuse me?
You said you weren't going to use this title?
No, I don't want the word mining in the title. That was one of my things.
One of them was going to go with soil and excavation.
That was my suggestion,
Is that what people, is soil and excavation, is that what we're thinking?
Well, it was that at one time.
yes.
Yeah. That's,
Lana's going to need a title for a law, and we need to know what we're doing.
soil excavation?
You want to,
Soil
let's kick that
removal?
around for the next couple days.
Soil
Bruce.
removal and excavation, I believe that's what it was.
Existing chapter 63 is soil removal, right? Something like that.
So soil removal and excavation? Okay.
Okay.
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, moving on. Our next item is our water districts. We are going out.
Thank you, Bruce.
Yeah, thank you.
We are trying to improve our facilities on Water District 1 and 2, and we are going after some grant money. So tonight, we opened this, what was that, last week?
Yes.
The public hearing for District 1 and 2. So we need to finalize that tonight and do the bond resolutions. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. We opened it last week for the bond resolution for Water District 1 and 2, so tonight we have to pass.
Could they step outside and talk, please?
Madam Supervisor, reading the materials that the bond council wrote, and it seems as though the public hearings were continued to tonight, so if you just want to see if there's any comment, and then close the
Okay.
public hearing. And then also, I know these are very lengthy resolutions, and I just want to let the board know, there's no legal requirement that you actually read these into the record, so if somebody
They're
just
very
wants to
long.
make a motion to adopt a resolution regarding bonding for, say, Water
Chris, you have to
District
read the
number
whole
1
thing.
or Water District number 2, that will be sufficient.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Could have told me that 5 years ago.
Okay, so we have to,
So, public comment?
yep, public comment for Water District 1 or 2. For Water District 1 or Water District 2.
We good?
Okay.
And there was no written comment?
No, I didn't
No
know.
written
No written comments.
So we'll make a motion to close
I
the
make a
public
motion to close
hearings.
the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do you have what you need?
Me?
Yeah,
I
you don't
make
need
a-
to read it all, so.
No, I make a motion to, what are we calling this? Resolution in order after public hearing, is that the title?
To be considered, no, here we go. So
Oh.
it's the,
I make a motion to pass a resolution, to pass a bond resolution to be considered by the town board for Water District 1 and Water District 2. I make this motion.
Second.
Lana, do we,
According to the bonds officer, he wants a roll call vote.
So roll call.
yep,
So Supervisor McGlasson?
yes.
Councilman Ruthven?
Here, yes, sorry. I am here too.
I see ya. Councilwoman Campbell?
Aye.
Councilman Boyd?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Um, Are we good?
We're good.
Yes,
Do we have everything?
All set.
Okay. All right. Our next item is with our highway department. I invite Richard Othmer, our highway superintendent, up.
Good evening. Two items on the agenda for me. The first one, or possibly three, if you were going to talk about that letter to the legislature. First one is to auction off the 2006 sweeper. You know, it's almost 18 years old, the thing's falling apart, and it's just not worth it to put money into it anymore. We're down to one sweeper. And I had to rent one after the storm because we had so many washouts in Western Kent that the old sweeper that we have left just couldn't handle it. So we just want to junk it and get rid of it. It's not worth putting anything into it. That's the first item. Do you want to vote on that first, or should I continue?
Yeah, why don't we do that first?
Any public comment on it? I make a motion to pass a resolution updating the, I make a motion to pass a resolution for authorization to offer vehicle for sale through Auctions International, Inc., whereas by email dated July 31st, 2023, Richard Othmer, Highway Superintendent of the Town of Kent, has requested to dispose of highway truck number 20, which is a 2006 Sterling Ford sweeper, plate number AE3555, VIN number 49HAADBVX6DV02242. And whereas the town board wishes to authorize the highway department to use the services of Auctions International to offer the vehicle for sale to third parties, or if there are no purchasers, to scrap the vehicle in exchange for its metal value. Now therefore be it resolved, the town board of the town of Kent authorize the highway department to offer the vehicle for sale through Auctions International, and be it further resolved that if the offer of sale through Auctions International results in no sale of the vehicle, the highway department is authorized to scrap the vehicle for its metal value. I make this motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, I know it's not on the agenda, but I know Councilman Boyd had spoken to me about my email to you all with the, is this proper for me to bring it up now?
I suppose so. I mean, we talk about it, but, well, we understand what you want to do, and we'll move forward with it. We'll make a letter. We'll ask them about it.
I don't
I'm
think,
sorry,
my personal opinion is we shouldn't speak publicly about it yet.
Okay, I
It
think it
was
would be
good
best
that
if we
it
did
was
a
good that
resolution when you send it
It was
out.
good that
but-
you found the information, and we need to further investigate it at this time.
Okay. The next thing are the roads, and actually, I should have did a little bit more research before I brought this up last month, but it was about the paper roads and the abandoned roads. And what I did is I went through, they have the CHIPS list, which is the state inventory, and I inherited a town of Kent road list. So I was going through them little by little by little when I had time, and identified those roads. I couldn't find them, I didn't know where they were, and I compared them to the existing paper roads list, and so on and so forth. And my last email I sent to you, on the 27th, I revised what I requested, and I'm kind of glad that, actually Kathy, you were the one who sent me back to the drawing board, and it was proper. I was going back and forth with Nancy. The roads I suggested to be abandoned, by law, what happens, after so many years, they get absorbed back into the people that own the surrounding property around them. So, am I correct in saying that? Oh, biting your lip, so maybe I wasn't correct in saying that. I'd say just leave it alone. I'm really sorry that I brought it up, but there's only one
The
road.
abandoned roads, I agree with you, with the abandoned roads, yes.
Just let
Not
them
the
be,
paper
because they
roads.
went back. And then the paper roads, Gedney Road, I can't find anywhere. I can't find it in the old maps. It just, I don't know. I don't even know why it was on our road list, but it's probably buried deep in the archives of it was probably purchased by somebody, 1940 or something, but I can't find any record on any map of Gedney Road, so again, I suggest we let that disappear. And Coles Mill Road was the abandoned road.
Denny Road.
Denny Road is the paper road that does exist on maps. And I have, that's the one that is not on the paper road list. It's in Lake Carmel. And I just think that we should vote to have that added to the paper road list, because if you guys go into a program where you're going to offer this land, the paper roads to be sold to the adjacent landowners, to get rid of them, then we know it's there. And a lot of them are landlocked, and, a tree will fall down and we'll find out it's a town tree, and you gotta go, you gotta go in and take it out. So my recommendation is to, just make a motion to put Denning Road on the paper road list. I have a map, and that's simple. And the last one, Nancy and I were speaking about it, is Hill Road. Now, Hill Road was over by Ryan's Field, and in 1989, I think it was 1989, when they did Ryan's Field, right around then. I
I
can't.
started going to meetings at 1989, but I don't know.
It was absorbed into the park. I can't find any surveying, I can't find the laid out road, but what I did find out, where it was supposed to have been was absorbed into the park when they built Ryan's Field, so it kind of just disappeared. So I don't think we should waste the money on surveys and title searches and everything. My recommendation is just put Denny Road on the paper road map and just let the other ones just go away into the universe.
The CAC used to keep a list of paper roads, they had a project, it was a comprehensive plan that they kept, so I would ask maybe them if they have.
Who, Kathy?
The CAC, Conservation Advisory Committee,
Okay.
because in the comprehensive plan, it mentions the paper roads, and that they had a project of keeping those because it could have used them for trails and different hiking things and stuff like that, so they may have.
Well, the Lake Carmel ones are,
Jim Baker and George Vaughn, I think it was, used to keep all.
Yeah, I think Tom Maxon
Yeah,
might
Tom
have it.
Right, he did all the stone chambers and stuff.
Yeah.
I think those are like Knapp Road North and Knapp Road South. There's like a 2 mile road of forest that runs between them. But from what I understand, Freddie Adams was telling me, somebody owns that land now, and he won't let anyone on it. He won't even let the DEP on it. And that runs basically, when you go out on 301, right by Sagamore, is Knapp Road. Where that dead ends, it continues through the forest. It comes out on Knapp Road North, which goes into Hortontown. But they were saying the guy that owns it now, he's got it barricaded, he won't let anyone in, and, not even, he owns the land. And I think that goes, since we never claimed it or kept it up with the town on our records, After so many years of non-use, it gets abandoned and it gets absorbed by the surrounding landowner, which is, I believe, what happened to that. And the same thing with this Coles Mill Road. Coles Mill runs between East Boyd's Road up there, and then it comes out on Ninham Circle by, Smalley, where Smalley, Ninham Lake. And then there's even another one in Gypsy Trail that comes out of Wangtown on the other end. But none of these roads have been used or made into trails by the town forever. So even if we tried to use them now, I think you'd have a battle trying to do it. But I mean, for tonight's suggestion for me is we just add Denning Road to the paper road list, and it's on there. And I can check the other stuff because I have a list of paper roads, but it's there. So if you come up with a program to sell these lots to the adjacent homeowners in Lake Carmel, it's on the list. And that's it.
Okay. All right, so we're going to,
We have one resolution for all of these roads.
okay.
We're
We don't need
not
these?
gonna do the second.
No.
I think we can just edit it as we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Take a shot at
We're just
that?
gonna do the Denning
Right.
Road,
That's
and
it,
not
that's
the,
it.
not the next paragraph.
Okay, so I make a motion to adopt a resolution updating the paper roads list. Whereas the town highway superintendent, Richard T. Offmer Jr., has recommended the inclusion of the following road on the paper roads list: Denning Road, 0.05 miles by 16 feet wide between Grasslands and Brayton Road. And whereas the town board of the town of Kent wishes to accept the recommendations, I'm sorry, I just lost the page. Yes, whereas the town board of the town of Kent wishes to accept the recommendations regarding the inclusion of Denning Road on the paper roads list, now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Kent hereby authorizes the addition of Denning Road to the paper roads list. I make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Good job.
So,
That was,
winging it.
yeah,
right
that
there.
was. Okay,
That's it?
thank you.
Thank you, Richie.
Thanks, Rick.
Okay, our next item we have two quotes from GenServe. One is for the PD, and, let's see, one is for the PD and the other is for Town Hall, and we just have some batteries and some coolant hoses that need to be replaced on everything there, because they're pretty large quotes. $3,759.35.
That's for both generators.
Yes, mhm.
Good. Any questions about?
Which you need down there.
Any questions about the maintenance for the generators? Take that one.
Sure. Make a motion for resolution accepting proposal for generator maintenance services. Let's see. Whereas the town board of the town of Kent wishes to contract for generator maintenance services for 130 kilowatt generator, Generac generator, serial number 207444365. And whereas in accordance with the town's procurement policy, the town sought proposals for generator maintenance services and received one written proposal in response to such request, copies of which are annexed hereto and incorporated herein by reference. And whereas GenServe has submitted the lowest proposed proposal dated July 5th, 2023 in the amount of $3,759.35, the town board of the town of Kent wishes to accept the proposal submitted by GenServe. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Kent hereby approves the proposal for generator maintenance services with GenServe for the Generac generator in the amount of $3,759.35. And be it further resolved that the town supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to execute any and all agreements and other documents necessary to give effect to this resolution, consistent with the terms thereof, all in form satisfactory to the supervisor of the town attorney. I make this motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Our last item on the agenda is for recreation. We currently have a mower, but it broke, and in order to fix the mower, the part is $2,100, but it's an aftermarket part, and we're not even sure if that will really fix it. So we can either try that, or we can, for a cost not to exceed $9,950, we can buy off a state bid a brand-new mower. We have the money in the equipment line, and I think that that's the best way for us to go, is to buy the new mower, rather than change a piece that may or may not work. Any comments? Okay.
I make a motion to approve a resolution authorizing the purchase of a Skag Tiger Cat 2 mower. Whereas the town board of the town of Kent received a request dated July 27th, 2023 from the town of Kent Parks Department requesting authorization to purchase a Skag Tiger Cat 2 rider mower, known as the mower. And whereas the town board recognizes there is a need for such equipment and wishes to authorize the town of Kent Parks Department to purchase the mower. And whereas the town's procurement policy exempts purchase contracts made under certain other contracts pursuant to the general municipal law in section 103 of the general municipal law, I guess, authorizes the town to purchase equipment or apparatus through contracts let by the state of New York, and whereas the town of Kent Parks Department desires to purchase a Skag Tiger 2 mower through a New York State contract in the amount of $9,950, and now therefore be it resolved, the town board of the town of Kent hereby authorizes and approves the purchase of a Skag Tiger Cat 2 rider mower in the amount of $9,950, and be it further resolved, the town board of the town of Kent hereby authorizes and directs the supervisor to execute any and all documents necessary to give effect to this resolution. I make this motion.
Should it say not to exceed $9,950, because there is a range depending on what.
All right, we're going to back up. Now therefore be resolved that the town board of the town of Kent hereby authorizes and approves the purchase of the Skag Cat Tiger 2, now I said it wrong, Skag Tiger Cat 2 rider mower in the amount not to exceed $9,950. And be further resolved, the town board of Kent authorizes the supervisor to execute any and all documents necessary to give effect to this resolution. I make this motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Vouchers.
Can you read this one, because I added one?
All right.
Thank you.
I ask the board to approve the following vouchers for August 1st, 2023 that were over the threshold. How do you say that? Assyrio, McMillan, and Burgess PC, $2,946 for legal services for the zoning board. Brady's Power Equipment, $3,234.19 for a Skag mower repair for the Lake Carmel Park District. Cassidy Plumbing and Heating, $2,579 for a water heater for Town Hall. Custom Bandage, $3,984.44 for tires. Global Montello Group, $5,329.40 for gas. Han Welding, $8,572.50 for a highway welder. Jimmy Trees Inc., $2,100 for tree removal for the Lake Carmel Park District. Kecht Construction, $828,531.96 for milling and paving. Mazada Catering, $2,275 for the Lake Carmel Summer Festival. Millennium Strategies, $3,000 for grant services. Peckham Industries, $14,545.95 for blacktop. Romer Wallens Gold and Minnow LLP, $2,112 for legal services. State Comptroller, $39,417 for Justice Court fines and fees. Systems Development Group, $2,400 for ImageMate support 23-24, and $2,400 for ImageMate support for 22 and 23. Town of Kent Municipal Repairs, $4,774.77 for chargebacks for sanitation, $71,482.52 for chargebacks for highway. West Hook Sand and Gravel, $11,328.25 for crushed item 4. Wind Waste, $8,896.37 for Lake Carmel garbage. And Barney Zipkin Tree, $5,020 for tree removal. Ask the board to approve as read.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. I only have one announcement for tonight. Coming up in October, Saturday, October 7th, is the Caitlin Rose Savio Foundation. They're having a day at Camp Kiwi. It's 12 to 5. $10 per car allows access to tennis, mini golf, jumping pillows, basketball courts, gaga, boating fields, and face painting. All proceeds go to the Caitlin Rose Savio Foundation. More information, 845-222-6908.
I just want to thank everybody that came to the county fair. Richie sent up some trucks for the Touch a Truck from the highway department. They were a big hit. Kent CAC and Climate Smart sat through the heat all day Saturday, and we had a wonderful day on Sunday. Saturday wasn't so wonderful, as you can see from my face, which is burnt and peeling, but we had a great fair, great weekend. It was great for the kids, great for the community, and it was nice to see everybody turn out, at least on Sunday, for it. Thank you.
Here, here. I have a few from the library, as always. There's going to be a music event here, the Hudson Valley Council Band, on Saturday, August 12th at 11:30. And that's, they play patriotic music, big band standards, show tunes, and pop music. Bring a blanket or chairs and your snack. And then there's for those who are interested in acting, there's an opportunity to read some dramatic works with Mariah Kravitz, and basically a performer and teacher. So it says, it's time to put those acting props to use. This is for 18 and up on Tuesday the 15th at 5 o'clock at the library. And apparently, during July already, and now going on into August, there's a Reading Buddies program on Tuesdays at 3 o'clock. And this is teen volunteers reading with children pre-K through 3rd grade. So, and also, if you've always wanted to play the ukulele, Monday, August 14th at 5 at the library, give the uke a try without having to buy. So come on down and try the ukulele. And then if you're really looking for a great read, I'm so excited. We now have a draft of our natural resources inventory. We've been working with Hudsonia and a steering committee for almost a year, and this is now on the town's website. It's a really short read. It's only about 200 pages. But I do encourage you to take a look. We are now in the period where we're seeking feedback from the community. Then we're going to make some final edits on this and send it off to the designer. So right now, it doesn't have all those great photos that many of you in town have sent to us, but those will be incorporated by the graphic designer once we finish this comment and feedback period. You can read it by going for the link on the town's website, and I encourage you to look at some of the sections. There's an introduction that explains the purpose of this document as a planning tool to help us preserve what really matters here in Kent. There's a detailed description of the sort of physical setting of the town, our habitats, the different kinds of species that are here, and then it gets into threats and potential threats to, again, what matters here, our lakes and so forth, our lands. And then there are some recommendations for actions that the town can take in terms of legislation, practices and policies, and also things that landowners and community members can do. So please give us feedback. Look for it on the town website. We also will have a press release about this. And the planning board has graciously agreed to allow us to use the meeting next Thursday, August 10th, 7:30 p.m. in this room. This will be televised. So if you can't be here in person, please listen in. And again, please get us your feedback. And thanks again to our committee members, town board members, supervisor, and also our planning board chair for allowing this to go forward. Thanks. That's all I have.
Mike Lawler was here the other day for the beginning of the paving for Route 52, and I was speaking with him. He said that for the Carmel Dam, the 1.3 million in engineering funds that we're looking for are in a bill with other monies. So if that bill gets passed, we'll get the monies.
That is fabulous news.
Yeah.
And by the way, we are still applying through WQIP, but that might give us money to actually get the work done if we get the funding for the engineering through our congressman. So, exciting news.
Public comment?
Sue Kotzer, Town of Kent. There was words about electronic e-waste, a shed. Is that coming? Do you have plans? Have you thought about it, talked about it?
Yes, we actually have talked about it. We're working on all the logistics. We have to get the shed. I've been in contact with the company. They know that we're on board with them, so we just have to.
Do you have a time, a date, a month, a year?
We're hoping for September.
September?
Mhm.
Okay, great. And where would it be placed?
Back here and Town Hall property.
Okay. Great. Also, in the paper, there was an article about e-cigarettes and vaping apparatus, and that there's supposed to be a drop-off bin at the police department. Did you read the article?
There is one.
There is one now?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, I didn't know it.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Sue, I got one thing. I actually was over on 301 and climbed up through the weeds and the brush looking for our missing sign. It's nowhere to be found. I went all over that place, but I could definitely tell that when they went from the 45-foot poles to the 60-foot poles, that they ran a machine right up over that hill there. So they must have pulled it. I would have thought they would have laid it off to the side or given it to the highway department, but it's gone. I think I'd like to work with Richie and see if we can get another one made. And Richie, maybe put it down just a couple hundred yards more closer to the entrance to your highway garage where there's that big grassy area. I know there's a dip in there, but maybe we can find a spot to have that sign so it's not getting covered with vines and everything, and replace it in a better location than it was before. Anybody else? Yes.
My name is Joy Begetta. Dear elected officials and civil servants of the Town of Board of Kent, thank you for your attention to what I'm about to say. I am speaking to you as a citizen who is very concerned about the health and infrastructure of our elections, in particular, our election voter rolls. As a resident and taxpaying citizen of New York, we reach out to our local elected officials and civil servants to be our voice in the bureaucratic wilderness, and the first and most important step on the rungs up to the bureaucratic ladder. It's with this in mind that I am here to plead to your common sense and open-mindedness and urge you to sign the resolution of an audit of the 2022 general election put forth by the New York Citizens Audit. I understand that you are in receipt of the Study and Deficits Report of the 2022 general election put forth and other findings from the New York Citizens Audit. I hope you have made some time to read them as I have. And I am here to say, New York, we have a problem. When the election checkbook does not balance with the election bank statement, it's time for an audit. Just as I reconcile my accounts, so should the state. Election law recognizes that to have a legal and valid election, the number of votes have to equal the number of voters. This makes sense to me, but then I read the Study and Deficits Report, which provides evidence that in 2020 in New York State, this statement is simply not true. The research found unqualified voters are voting, and the number of votes cast does not equal the number of voters who voted. In fact, in the 2020 election, there were over 338,000 more votes cast statewide than voters who voted. A big problem. I want to know that my vote counts and not canceled by an invalid vote. I want to know that the elected officials representing me and my community are indeed the ones who were elected to vote on issues in legislation which I and my community and your constituents care about. The Study and Deficits Report has uncovered massive vote discrepancies and clear presence of unnatural algorithmic patterns in the voter rolls, making them grossly inaccurate. Recently, the information in a peer-reviewed study published in the Journal of Information Warfare confirms a total loss of control breach has occurred in the New York State voter database, proving that presence of the algorithms in New York State voter database is now referred to as fact. Those algorithms are still there today. The 2022 election was run using the same compromised database. Therefore, how can we certify the 2023 or 2024 elections or beyond while still using the compromised rolls if we know they are compromised? Dear board members, please be our voice and sign the New York Citizens Audit Resolution to move it further up the ladder towards an end-to-end audit. Thank you.
I make a motion to adjourn this meeting. This has nothing to do with town business.
Well, anybody else want to speak? It's an open to the public.
It's our board meeting, we don't have to.
Oh, all right, if you don't want to.
Yeah, hi. Kevin.
Where you are, this does apply to you. And this is our First Amendment right.
See, this is not
This
an
isn't-
officially
this
run
isn't
meeting,
appropriate
and I
for
think
our
it's
town.
time to end it.
I know some of the stuff.
I second the motion to adjourn the meeting.
We have to go to executive session.
I call executive
Pending
session for personnel
Pending
issues.
litigation.
Second.
Pending litigation.
All in favor?
All right.
How is this